The Nuforce Primo 8 is a quad-balanced armature in-ear earphone with a proprietary crossover network that Nuforce claims improves the phase coherence of the drivers, meaning that the 4 drivers act better as one unit. Now, at $499 recommended retail, Nuforce seems pretty confident with its new technology, but is this new Butterworth crossover worth it? Well, you're watching Lachlan Likes a Thing, and let's find out. Hey everyone, welcome to Lachlan Likes a Thing, the show where I take a thing and see whether or not I like it. Now, the thing we're looking at in this video is the Nuforce Primo 8. And just to let you know, Nuforce provided me this as a review unit to keep, and I've been using this earphone for about over a month now. Now, as I mentioned in the introduction, Nuforce really focused on trying to improve the phase coherence of this earphone. So as you can imagine, with multi-balanced armature earphones that have several balanced armature drivers inside them, it can be difficult to make sure that the 4 drivers or the multiple drivers are properly aligned and that the sound arrives at your ear from the different drivers at the same time. So this has been difficult with things like the Westone 4R or the Shure SE535. You get things like transient smearing, things that aren't quite coherent because different frequencies are kind of arriving at your ear at different times. So this is why I've always preferred dynamic driver earphones, because dynamic driver earphones just basically use one high performance driver. They don't have these kind of alignment issues, and to me they just sound more natural and they're basically less complex to manufacture. There's been other approaches taken to this problem. So for instance, Sony in their XBA line of balanced armature earphones uses no crossovers whatsoever to avoid that entire problem, but that introduces its own set of issues. Nuforce has gone its own way. They've gone a new route by using a new crossover network, which uses an implementation called a first order Butterworth filter design. And I'm no electrical engineer, so I can't tell you what that actually means, but apparently it allows them to achieve better phase coherence, and it's something that they've personally been quite proud of with their innovation. So let's take a closer look. The Nuforce Primo 8 has an interesting design that sort of reminds me of a blue seashell. Now, for a quad balanced armature earphone, the earpiece is actually remarkably small and lightweight. Build quality on the Primo 8 is nice enough, but for $499, it's nothing special. Now, I have a particular problem with the cables on the Primo 8. They are detachable cables that use an MMCX connector, as you can see. And as you can also see, they're somewhat loose and rotate quite freely on the connector joint. Now, Nuforce put a groove on the inside of the earpiece. I don't know if you can see that here, but they put a groove on the earpiece and a raised part on the cable itself to prevent the cable from rotating all the way around. But as you can see, the soft plastic on the Primo 8 on the cable is actually worn away after about a month, meaning that the connector just rotates quite freely and the MMCX connector gets quite loose. And when it does this, it's easy for stuff to get into the connector and disrupt the connection. Now, I found that I've had problems with the right earpiece on the Primo 8 intermittently cutting out, and I had to detach it and to clean the connector, and every time I do that, the connection gets looser. Now, I've actually had similar problems with the Logitech UE900 in the past. And I have to say that I'm starting to think that MMCX connectors are actually not all that durable, and that simpler 2-pin connectors are maybe perhaps better. And I've actually said the opposite in the past, and I think I had to kind of eat my words at this point. There are better alternatives, including Sony, which designed a marvelous kind of detachable cable with a locking collar on their flagship earphone, which secured the connection. For my recommendation for the Primo 8, I would say do not detach the cable connectors unless you absolutely need to, because they will get loose over time. The Primo 8 cable is also a source of a few more frustrations. I like the cable's actual quality. It's quite supple and it's a little longer than your average length, which I personally prefer. But the ear guides on the Primo 8 are extremely stiff. And while this makes them stay in your kind of preferred shape, which makes it a bit more convenient to take on and off, it also means that they are they create a fair bit of noise when they tap against your ears when you move. Now, this is versus something like the Sony kind of lineup of in-ears with really soft ear guides that don't make any noise when they kind of tap your ears. And so the flip side of that is that those ear guides kind of tend to move out of shape and you have to readjust them every single time you put them on. It's a bit of a trade-off, but personally, I think they should have chosen a softer material for the ear guides because the cable noise is quite distracting when you're moving around. Another thing that I wanted to point out about the cable is that the microphone capsule on the cable is situated below the Y split, and it's in a little bit of an inconvenient location. It's also quite large and quite ungainly. I think that the kind of cable is a little bit awkwardly placed and it seems a little low to be useful. Now, Nuforce does not include a cable without the smartphone controls in the box, which I think is a little miserly for a $499 product. One last comment I wanted to make was that the carrying pouch that comes with the Primo 8 is actually just a soft pouch. And while it feels really nice and it's quite convenient and easy to carry around with you, it's way too soft, I think, to actually adequately protect the earphones and to protect your $500 investment. So I would have liked to see a hard case included with the Primo 8. So thankfully for a quad balanced armature in-ear earphone, the Nuforce 8 is actually quite a comfortable fit, both because of its lightweight and its relatively small size. So you can see it's a relatively low profile design. Now, as I mentioned before, because the cable guides are quite stiff and they tend to swivel around a bit, they can be a bit of an issue when you're moving around. They'll just tap around or rub around the back of your ears and they'll make a bumping noise. On the flip side, noise isolation on the Primo 8 is quite good because it's a fully sealed design. And in that way, it's got an advantage over a lot of high-end dynamic drivers that still have to be ported. Nuforce includes a set of Comply foam tips that are apparently meant to even increase noise isolation more, but I found that when I tried to use them, I couldn't get a proper seal, so I can't really comment about that. So the Primo 8 has a few bugbears when it comes to design, but does the sound make up for all of that? Well, yes and no. The Primo 8 sounds good. The crossover design is absolutely doing its job, and to my ears it sounds a lot more coherent and a lot more natural than a lot of other quad balanced armature earphones that I've heard, like the Western 4R, which I thought was an absolute mess when it came to violins and issues with the transient smearing. Though, from memory, I think the Primo 8 is about on par with the Logitech UE900 with regards to kind of transient performance. In terms of overall signature, it has a smooth, well-tuned, balanced sound signature that has a particular focus on mid-range kind of vocals, a broad mid-band emphasis. And that makes everything sound glossy and lively without sounding overly forward or kind of shouty. Bass is balanced and well controlled, and it's got a nice sense of extension and balance. I found treble to be a little bit problematic with the Primo 8 because it's got detailed and inoffensive treble, but I think it's just a bit too smoothed off in some frequencies. So it's a bit oddly blunted. The kind of shh notes are very present and sort of emphasized even, but the notes, the high frequency kind of S notes, are a bit too smoothed off. So I think it sounds a bit unnatural to me, particularly with stringed instruments and kind of cymbal hits. It's just oddly kind of shimmery. On the flip side, I think this is a good sound for people who kind of want a detail on the treble without kind of piercing their ears if they're particularly sensitive to S-note sibilant. I'm kind of sensitive myself, but even I found this a little bit too rolled off. This could also be a thing that varies with tip selection. So I've heard that with the Comply foam tips, the kind of high frequency opens up a little. Again, I couldn't get a seal of those, so I can't really report on that. Now, as with most kind of quad balanced armatures, I have to say that layering and separation on the Primo 8 is really fantastic. You get a really nice holographic, very lively kind of soundstage, really nice detail separation, particularly in fast passages. This is the traditional strength of balanced armature earphones, and the Primo 8 has it in droves in terms of speed and detail. However, I have to say that even with all the innovation of the crossover, I still think transients are being smeared on the Primo 8. Just again with stringed instruments, I sometimes found that the sound was just not, didn't have that kind of bite and that kind of attack or texture that I was really looking for. And this might be how my brain is kind of interpreting the rolled off treble. I don't quite know at this point, but to me, I think the Primo 8 sounds a bit less natural with those kind of frequencies than I would personally prefer. And on some tracks, I think it even sounds a bit splashy. So I guess this brings us to the $499 question. Is the Primo 8 worth it? Now, I tend to avoid specific questions of value for money on this channel unless something is a really big bargain, because people's circumstances and their preferences can be pretty varied. I can say that personally, while I like the Primo 8 sound, I don't like it for the price. It's definitely one of the best quad balanced armature in-ear earphones that I've heard, but it still doesn't beat my favorite kind of IEMs in terms of how much I enjoy the sound. So if you're keeping a kind of tally of my favorite Wall of Fame IEMs, those would be the Yamaha EPH100, the Sony 7550, and the Sony XBA H3, the VSonic GR07, and now actually a new addition, the VSonic VSD3S, which I'm actually really enjoying at the moment. I still think with multi-balanced armature earphones that you're getting a really good sound, but you're also paying a lot more to get that added complexity, to get the crossovers, to get the balanced armature units, and all that kind of research and development costs a lot of money. And I don't think that the advantages of multi-armature setups are actually that much greater over dynamic drivers. So along with the kind of design and build issues that I have with the Primo 8, which are relatively minor, but still it's an expensive product, I still feel that there shouldn't be really any issues at this price point. I personally wouldn't pay full retail price for the Primo 8. Now, the Primo 8, I think, is priced competitively with other quad-balanced armature earphones, but again, it's my opinion that kind of multi-balanced armature earphones aren't priced competitively with dynamic driver earphones and a lot of the rest of the market. As for the Primo 8, I'm going to put it in kind of like my maybe recommendation category. So if above all you value kind of smooth, glossy, kind of lively vocals, and you really want a priority on that kind of layering and separation, and for some reason you have to spend over $300, I would give this a listen, because I reckon you would kind of enjoy the Primo 8, and I definitely can't say that I didn't enjoy the Primo 8 sound. I just think the price is just a bit questionable. That's my kind of personal opinion. Anyway, you can click the like button if you enjoyed this video, and you can talk to me on Facebook at facebook.com/LachlanLikesAthing, or on Twitter at LachLikesAthing. Thanks to all my regular subscribers, and happy listening.